Welcome everybody. So today we're going to be talking about just an introduction to what the Math IA is, as well as more importantly how it's going to be graded. Next week we'll talk more about topic selections, how to choose a topic, what makes a good topic, what makes a good aim, things like that. Today my main goal is just that you guys walk away with an understanding of how the IA is graded. Okay, the way we're going to do that is we're going to go through the rubric step by step, and then also I'm going to have you guys read a sample IA and then grade it yourself so that you get a feel for how the rubric works. Okay, it's very important to understand how the rubric works because you want to produce an IA that is targeted to the rubric. Okay, you want to produce an IA that kind of meets all the criterion of the rubric. Okay, so what is a math IA? A math IA is just a 6 to 12 page single-spaced report or an exploration. I like to think of it as an exploration. You basically choose a topic, and that topic is a topic that falls within the HL syllabus or maybe perhaps beyond the HL syllabus, and then you write about it. And you explore some mathematics. Okay, whatever mathematics, it's completely up to you. Now, there are some areas that are better to explore for the IA and some that are not, and I'll talk more about that next week. But you do have complete freedom over the topic that you choose and how you choose to explore it. Now, it's 6 to 12 pages single-spaced or 12 to 20 pages double-spaced. That's what the IB says. I will say it's not like an extended essay where the page count is a strict page count, so the examiner will keep reading. However, if you exceed like 12 pages single space, most likely the examiner will dock you for conciseness, and I'll talk about that later. And also, if you have less than 6 pages single space, chances are you haven't even done enough mathematics. Okay, so 6 to 12 pages is a very good range. Try and fall within that. Okay, you have to choose a topic that's within the syllabus. Okay, meaning you have to find a topic that meets at least one, usually it's way more than one, but at least one syllabus requirement in the HL course, okay? And then you could also choose topics that are beyond. Now, that's a little bit trickier. I'll talk more about that next week, okay? So, all right, so what do you have to do? Well, you just have to write about a topic that you choose, and you also have to do the mathematics involved, okay? Again, we'll talk more about this next week, okay? But you, as the person writing the IA, have to be doing mathematics. You can't just be describing mathematics, you have to be actually doing mathematics. And then, second last point is just that hopefully it's a mathematical topic that, like interests you genuinely, like something you're curious about, something you want to explore more of. But if you can't find a topic that genuinely interests you, then choose a math area that you're interested in. Maybe you're interested in complex numbers or calculus, whatever. Choose a mathematical field that interests you. Finally, the IA grade makes up about 20% of your overall IB grade. The rest 80% is paper 1, paper 2, paper 3. Portion of your predicted grade will be a part of the IA, and I'll talk more about that next week. But just keep that in mind that this year when I submit predicted scores, how well you're progressing on your IA is going to be a part of it. Okay, now we're going to switch to how it's graded, and today that's the goal. The goal is just so you understand how the IA is graded, and I'll show you a final IA product, okay, a final IA, and that way you get to see what it looks like. And I think that's the best way of kind of figuring out, hey, what is the math IA? If you read one end product, a final product, you can get a good sense. Okay, so hopefully you have a document that looks something like this. I've provided it to you through ManageBack. And this document is from the IB, and it just describes the internal assessment, at least the new internal assessment. It was slightly changed for you guys and for the previous year, but not much. Also, a quick note, just that the internal assessment in SL and HL math are basically identical. We do the exact same internal assessment. The only difference between the HL internal assessment is the amount of the depth of mathematics that's required, the sophistication, as well as the rigor. And I'll talk about those. But, SL and HL students both have to do this, and, it's basically the exact same thing. Okay. I think I've already mentioned this. It needs to be 12 to 20 pages double spaced or 6 to 12 single spaced. The one thing I didn't mention is that throughout the IA, you want to demonstrate clear understanding of the mathematics. Now, a lot of times students confuse demonstrating mathematical understanding with algebraic steps or just mathematical steps. Just because you write a mathematical proof or write out some algebraic steps, that does not demonstrate clear understanding. If anything, the algebraic steps are the thing that least demonstrate your ability to understand the mathematics. Typically, what I'm looking for is not the algebraic steps, but maybe the motivation for the algebraic steps, or the explanation of why the algebraic steps are what they are, or connecting it to a larger concept, explaining that larger concept, right? So things like that. So I'm actually not looking as closely at the algebraic steps as I am gauging how well you understand, and those two are very distinct things. Okay, so a lot of times students think that just because they do complicated algebra, it must necessitate that they demonstrate a clear understanding, and that's not the case. Okay, the goal is that you produce an IA, a piece of mathematics that your peers can follow. Okay, so your target audience is your peers. The other thing is, I'll just mention this because last year, again, each year I have students who are confused about this. You need a bibliography. If you're not sure what that is, look it up, Google it. And then also, if you're going to use direct quotes, you have to put them in direct quotes and you have to cite your source. Even if you're not using direct quotes, if you're paraphrasing concepts that you find, which you're going to be doing throughout the IA, you need citations, okay? And that's very important. Your IA should have lots of citations. In-text citations, I should say. Okay, so I'm not going to read all that. I want to just go over the grading scheme. Actually, before I go over the grading scheme, I want to give you a overview of the grading scheme. So here's how the IA is graded. It's made up of these 5 components. You can see presentations 4 marks, mathematical communications 4 marks, personal engagement 3 marks, reflection 3 marks, mathematics 6 marks. Now, here's what's really interesting about this, okay? So the math IA, which is about mathematics, most of the grades come from things that are not mathematics related. Okay, so I just want to point that out because I feel like not enough people appreciate this, but 14 out of 20 marks are things that are not mathematics related. Oh, you might argue that mathematical communication is mathematics, but it's more the communication, and so it's not really the content. Personal engagement, presentation, reflection, these are all things that are not mathematics related directly. Okay, so only 6 out of your 20 marks actually come from mathematics, okay, doing mathematics, showing, demonstrating understanding of mathematics. And so it's a very small portion in relation to the rest of these criterion. And I'll talk about how this impacts the topic selection next week, and how you should keep this in mind. Okay.